I'm glad that you stayed around for the second session today. You know, one of the things that I encountered when we first started spending a great deal of time down in Florida was the perennial question that all of my friends back home asked me. David, what do you do all day? So what do you do all day to keep yourself busy? I mean, what do you do? And after constantly trying to explain what I do, because all the comedians have the same routine. I don't know what I do, but I'm busy all day long. I'm busy. I don't know. So I posed the question to my friend back in New York. I said, let me ask you a question. What do you do all day long? And I realized that I made the right decision by coming down here and spending so much time here, because I'm a lot busier here than he was at the time in New York. So when we were talking about possible topics, this one is such an appropriate topic, transitioning into retirement, because a lot of people are so fearful about it. But I will leave all of the details up to the professionals, and it gives me great pleasure to call upon Peninah Flug now to address that issue.
Thank you. I want to thank OU and Hannah, our kids for
Could you speak a little louder? Could you speak a little louder?
If you need my go close if you want.
I'll try without it. I was asked to speak today about using the transition into retirement. Now, you can tell that I'm not retired. I'm here just to share my ideas and thoughts based on my experience spending a great deal of time listening to the struggles of retirees and seeing what works, what coping skills help, and what doesn't work so well. There's a story of a businessman was on vacation. He passed a fisherman packing up his equipment early in the day. Why are you packing up so early? You could be so much more successful if you worked harder. The businessman responded, I caught enough fish for today. I'm going to go home and spend time with my family. The businessman went on to outline a 15-year plan for the fisherman to build his business into a multi-million-dollar company. The fisherman said, what will I do with a multi-million-dollar fishing company? Do I need it?
If you want, it's up to you.
You can tell me if I need it.
I'll leave it here if you need it.
The businessman responded, you could sell your company, retire, and spend part of your day fishing and part of your day relaxing with your family. The fisherman responded, isn't that what I'm already doing now? For most of us, the life of the fisherman was never an option because balancing work with our other priorities is extremely difficult and challenging. Retirement presents the unique opportunity to have both ways. There's time for work and there's time for play. There's time for family. Yet for so many, it's such a struggle. One of the things that I see often is that people don't plan. And I'm going to talk about that a lot today because that's a big part of easing the transition. How many people here are already retired? Or partially retired? Okay. So most, okay. 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 Part of the problem is that our society sensationalizes retirement and we think of sandy beaches, just like they sensationalize so many difficult things like falling in love or having children. So if a person struggles, they think they're alone and they don't reach out for help often. They think that maybe something's wrong with me, why is it so difficult? It's supposed to be an easy process. But we've seen from all of our previous transitions in life that transitions are often difficult. And until you work through it, and then there's happiness can be attained from the transition. I'd like to share some examples of problems that can arise. A person retires without making any plans, and I see often people will be shocked by how depressed they become because they didn't make any plans and they don't know what they're going to do. There's possible outcomes when they realize the pitfall of the lack of planning. A possible positive negative outcome is that the person will remain stuck and so focused on the disappointment that they avoid dealing with the transition and getting through it. A positive possible outcome is that the person will recognize the transition for what it is and work through it and come out on top. Both of these are typical and normal, because with any transition, there's a possibility for regression. The good news is that it's only temporary. We can all relate to this. Divorce, empty nest, loss, illness, relocation are all examples of transitions. One has to accept the loss of the old situation and get used to the new rhythm of life. Regardless of where you are, whether you're contemplating retirement or already retired, I hope that you will learn some helpful tools today. The very reasons that people hesitate come to the forefront at the beginning of retirement. This is because to master any transition, we have to be prepared both logistically as well as psychologically. If you anticipate that it will be difficult and plan and discuss with your family members how you'll cope, you'll be able to deal with the stressors more effectively. So I want to start with talking about what work provides us with and how to fulfill these needs during retirement. What do we get from working? What benefits?
Financial.
What else?
About the same.
Comradeship, camaraderie,
Right.
Satisfaction, accomplishing something.
Self-actualization.
Anything else come to mind?
A lot of aggravation.
That's the benefit of this stage. Well, there's aggravation from other areas. Anything else? I mean, I heard a lot of the main issues. Routine. It's a big one. Anything else? Okay, that's a big one also.
Purpose.
Feeling productive, purpose.
Avoiding conflicts.
Avoiding conflicts?
Yeah.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. And you have to relearn that when you're home office. Anything else? Okay, so you mentioned most of them, and the other thing, a big thing that you touched on, but nobody actually said, was identity. Many of us, our identity is from work, so when we shift and we're not working anymore, it's hard to have those positive feelings about ourselves. Throughout every stage of life, we're here to learn and grow and contribute using our talents and our strengths and weaknesses. So if we stop using our strengths and contributing, it can lead to feelings of anxiety or depression, emptiness. So what helps in retirement is not to stop, but to redirect. Find a new outlet, a new framework for your strengths and weaknesses, strengths and character traits. Recent research shows that many high achievers don't retire, rather they take a break and reinvent themselves, find a new path that will be fulfilling. I want to share a story of a Dr. Jack McConnell. He retired to Hilton Head, and he planned to spend most of his time playing golf, going out to restaurants, and socializing. After a few months, he realized that he was having a very hard time with the adjustment. He wasn't happy. He picked up some hitchhikers in his driving, and he discovered that they were uninsured and they had no access to medical care. After more research, he realized that 1/3 of the local population had no health insurance and no medical care. He started to talk to some of his other retired doctor and dentist friends, and they said that they would help out if this project ever took off, which they didn't think it would. He now has 96 clinics and thousands of professional volunteers offering free health care to those who are uninsured. So we don't have to set our sights that high. He didn't set his sights high either. It can be anything. It can be spending more time with your grandchildren, volunteering for a non-for-profit. But the point is that we have to set personal goals that will provide satisfaction at every stage of life, including retirement. Stephen Covey, the author of the famous author of the 7 Habits book, said, "You can retire from a job, but never retire from making meaningful contributions." Another quote that from a famous coach said, "The trouble with retirement is that you never get a day off." You alone have to plan your day and your weeks, on your ability to find happiness in personal relationships and other pursuits not related to work. We talked about the importance of meaningful activity and routine, and someone mentioned camaraderie. We can't overlook that. Successful aging occurs when older adults continue to socialize, and this is because the aging process is delayed and the quality of life is enhanced. Now, I hear from many people that people have a hard time making friends at this stage of life. You don't have the common connectors like raising children together or working together. It can be much harder, but if that's what's important to you, if that's what you liked about working, or that's what you liked about your life before retirement, you need to make the effort to fill in these missing pieces by building relationships. And they might not fall into your lap, and you can't have the same expectations that you have of relationships with shared history. But it's worth it if you put the time in. Published research, as well as my own experience, shows that people that continue to work part-time in retirement, volunteer, or find other meaningful, productive activities do better. They show less signs of decline, are healthier. This is because having a sense of purpose is known to have a positive impact on our health. I want to talk about some tips to improve your level of happiness at this stage. What would you say are the keys to happiness?
Satisfied with what you have.
Okay, that's a big one. There's so much good around us and within us. Often we don't appreciate it until something goes wrong. So appreciating what you have, anything. Actually, keeping a gratitude journal, thinking every day of 3 to 5 things that you appreciate is known to help make people feel better and to be more productive. Because sometimes if we're not mindful of the good in our life, we just don't focus on it and we don't feel well. I actually wanted you to try it right now. I was told that you have paper and pen. I wanted you to everyone to write down right now, like 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for. You don't have to share them. It's just an exercise, just to practice. They could be small or big things, anything. It doesn't look like people have paper. Some people don't have paper. This exercise, it takes only a few minutes, but the impact is enormous. Really, it's proven to help people get through difficult times. So I'm giving you this as a gift to take home with you. What else? We said appreciation. What else? What are other keys to happiness?
Being realistic in your goals.
That's excellent. Being realistic in our goals. And also, what goes along with that is expecting less. We often expect too much from other people, and it leads to disappointment. If we expect less from other people and more from ourselves, we do better. Anything? Did you want to say anything else about that?
Life is not a television set.
Right.
Life is not a television set.
What did you say?
He said life is not a television show.
But in some ways it is, because you have to reset your personal channel.
Can you say more about that? Or?
Having just retired 5 weeks ago.
Okay, so this
She's a baby.
You have to decide that some of the things that you rushed through in the past, you can now take more time with, and that a lot of things that maybe you felt you didn't have time for, you really do have time, but you have to think about the way in which you would like your future to be structured. Personal channels. Maybe it's sleeping late, maybe it's going out to lunch every day that you never had time for, or doing more chesed or bikkur kolim, or entertaining more, or maybe it's cleaning your closets.
I think that's excellent. It's like we need to reevaluate at this stage. What do I want to do now? And make sure that it includes meaningful activity and things that you might not have had time for before. Like you said, we thought maybe we didn't think we had time for it, or we didn't make the time. So that reminds me of back to the fisherman example. Like how many people, it's very hard to prioritize work and family and fitting it all in, so.
How about getting your health in a better shape by exercising more now that you have the time and channeling that, eating more?
Excellent. Yeah, exercise is so important. I can't stress that enough. It's exercising 30 to 40 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week is proven to be equivalent to the effects of antidepressants in treating depression and anxiety. It's so helpful and important. And when you mentioned getting your health in order, part of that I think is also, if you're moving, finding the right partner, like the right doctors that you feel, because I hear that a lot, but that's difficult. People retire and move, finding the right partners to make sure that your health is taken care of.
But you have to exercise your mind as well as your body. You have to find things that interest you and make sure that
Not as much.
you're stretching your brain cells.
Definitely.
Go to you.
Anything else?
It's more important.
Well, I think appreciating, especially good health, is very important, because if you have health, anything is a possibility. So you've got to take care of yourself and, make sure you're, Anna and I keep saying keeping busy. You have to keep busy, because otherwise
You're bored.
you're not just, you're bored, you'll be depressed, and you won't get, they always say if you want something done, ask a busy person. So when I have nothing to do, nothing gets done.
It is harder. It is harder. Yeah, I see that in my own life. On the day off from work, it's much harder. Whereas on the days that I have a half hour to do everything before or after work,
Nothing gets done.
yeah. What you said about exercising your mind also. So, and that's, we all have different needs. Some of us need more play and some of us need more work. And if that was important to you in the past, going to classes or research and part of your work, it's very important. And there's so many opportunities here. I mean, I only know about Florida really, but there's so many opportunities to take classes.
Well, I will tell you that I spent a long time thinking as deeply as I could about the very question that you raised. And I found in life that I had engaged in God knows how many various activities that most people would say, oh, that should bring you happiness, only to find didn't. You could name it. Great vacations, success in work, great family, wonderful wife, great parents, everything. Didn't make me happy at all. I've achieved happiness. I can say that with confidence. And I've come to 2 conclusions. One, it's a gift. Plain and simple. I don't know that you can, like the parting of the Red Sea, there are scientists who can come up with all kinds of explanations, but in the end, you have to have faith that it was Hashem that did it. It's a gift, and to try to analyze why you don't have it or why you do might be an exercise in futility. The other more specific thing that I can say is this, and maybe begs the question, And that is, with happiness, I think one can experience a greater clarity of mind. Now, does the happiness lead to the clarity of mind, or does the clarity of mind lead to the happiness, or both? I don't know. I'm not going to try to answer it. But I'll just repeat, I'm convinced it's a gift. Do I deserve it? No, I don't believe I do. But I've got it, so I seize upon it. And as far as the clarity of mind is concerned, it does reinforce the happiness in this way. When I now think about the good things that I have, including the ability to sit right here with all of these people, it penetrates. The thoughts penetrate to the very deep part of me and reinforces and corroborates the happiness that I have.
You said it's a gift, but you also said that you worked to get there.
But I can't say that the work got me there. I think that the work got me to the point of realizing it's a gift.
But with any character trait, some things come naturally to us, to different people, but working with can change.
Really don't think it's a gift. I think that's, for whatever reason, just like a person can't keep looking over his shoulder to see what somebody else has in terms of their achievements, financial or whatever. You have to be happy with what God's given you. You just have to develop that attitude that this is as good as it gets, and if you accept that, then you're happy. And happiness means something else to different people. But some people can be very happy just accepting what they have. It's an outlook. It's not a fear.
Right, it's a positive outlook, right? So having a positive outlook is proven to help us feel better and do better, be more successful in any area of life.
Well, getting up in the morning and being alive and, going to the bathroom makes you happy. I don't know about you.
Any other, what are other keys?
The rest of the day? Let me just modify what Heshy said, expectations.
Yeah.
Don't shoot too high, I think is what he said. I would say unrealistic expectations. And don't shoot too low. Don't sell yourself short on what you might be able to accomplish. Don't be afraid to go a little too high, maybe get knocked down a peg. And I think that will be more fulfilling. Sort of coast.
Always down. Anything else? What are other keys to happiness? There's some that know any. What else makes us happy? What else is important?
Well, I think that when you're growing up with kids and your emphasis is on work and kids and so forth, this is a transition of life where your kids are now grown up and on their own and married, have their own families, and all of a sudden you're not working anymore, you're at home with your wife during the daytime, and the relationship between husband and wife grows, and it's a different era in our life, but one that's very special.
Yeah, and that's something that I was going to get to later, but we'll talk about that a little bit. But sometimes it's a challenge, though, right? When you both retired and now two people are in one space that weren't together all day before. And like you said, it's wonderful. That's a great way of looking at it, but it requires work to get through the challenge. So, and a lot of communication. Couples do better when they talk about things rather than putting it off. Anything, so constant communication, especially during this transition. All transitions are difficult, and there could often be pain, but happiness can come from getting through the transition. Anything else in terms of happiness?
I think it's important for people to each have a routine, because you cannot depend on somebody else. You need your own space, and you need your own routine.
lot.
Anything else? Any other keys to happiness? Okay, one that was touched on but not really mentioned was spending quality time with the people that we love is one of the greatest predictors of happiness. And quality time is eroding in our time with all the technology and the fast pace. So that's something that you now have time to nurture. There could be relationships even that you know, maybe that you've had difficulty with in the past in your family that now you have time to nurture. There's a book, A Short Guide to Happiness, and the writer, Anna Quindlen, she said, a simple prescription for happiness in my role as a parent, wife, and friend is I show up, I listen, and I try to laugh. How often do we do that, actually? Sit down and have quality time with the people that we care about. Let's see if there's anything else. Someone, did you have anything?
To try living in Marguerite for a few minutes.
A lot of quality time. Someone mentioned positive disposition. So being optimistic is, you know, it improves our health. People are proven to live longer from being optimistic. Okay. Any questions? I mean, I have more, but anyone, any questions at this point?
My niece is much younger than I, and she's retiring now. Her husband, retired, he exercises almost all day long. She doesn't know what she's going to do. What would you suggest?
You mean because
She's not into the exercise like he is.
So what will she do? Well, I mean, people that are more open to trying new things do better in retirement. Because you can't do the things that you did before. Some things you might not be able to do because of health or location so people that are open, rather than saying, oh, that's not for me, that's not for me. I hear this almost every day from people, you know, that there's no one that I can relate to where I live, or there's no activity for me. I mean, I had a client that was an extremely successful businesswoman, and her retirement came with many challenges. The way she coped was she went to a class every day. She needed that stimulation and that socialization. So being open to, I mean, maybe there's some kind of exercise that she can do with it. You know, we all need to exercise. I mean, we need to. I mean, I think any doctor that you'll go to today will say that. You need to exercise. So, I mean, she could also try to talk to him about making time for her. He's already retired and okay. So, any other questions?
Just a comment that I don't feel because a spouse does something that, you know, I have many friends who come down here with one parent or family attached and it works for them. It doesn't work for my husband and myself because that's not in there. So he has his own hobbies, he does his own thing, and I do my own, you know, occasionally compromise on whatever, but just because her husband exercises something, she can find something else. It doesn't necessarily have to be with you.
There's something for everyone. See, there's so many things to do here. Yeah.
I think echoing what Maureen mentioned, that it is important because now you put into a situation where you're constantly together as your spouse, and to take up the same hobbies, I don't know whether that's the best thing to do. I think it's important for people to find what gives them positive satisfaction, whether it's volunteering in your organization, whether it's reading a book, whether it's learning how to play a game you've never played before. And it is important for everybody to develop their own independent lives.
And part of that was the planning. So the plan to retire and not plan what you're going to do at all, that often leads to difficulty. And some people need to work part-time just to be happy. I mean, I hear this a lot. That people make a plan and then it doesn't work out, but they won't try to change the plan. Often was where they move. I mean, I was going to talk about this later, but rushing into decisions about where to live can also cause difficulty. You have to make sure it's the right fit, and then people retire and they go back to work part-time if they miss that, or volunteering or something meaningful. But I mean, there's so many there's something for everyone, but being open to trying something different, that's what really helps, being open to it. Anything else? Any other questions? Or?
Just want to make it a statement my friend just said to me. I think it's easier for men to retire, especially from people, because they have the boys club, the men.
I mean, I also hear from a lot of women that their husbands flake up, a significant amount of the time. So.
There's margin.
What did you think?
I said sometimes they're happy about it, but they can leave the house.
Right, well, and some people miss the privacy, and that's why the communication is so important with your children, with your spouse, about to work through it. I mean, what did you say? Did you say something? Oh, any other questions before we go on? Okay. So we talked about, I kind of touched on it, but just reviewing your routine, making sure that it's working. Okay? If you feel like there's something not working, just review. Are you making the best of your time? We need to always be doing something with purpose and meaning. Someone mentioned challenging, right? So that's very important. And we talked about finding activities. The internet makes it much easier. I mean, there's so many activities going on here that there's something for everyone. The other thing that the internet can help with is, communicating with family members who are far away. I mean, I don't know how many people live here full-time or are here part-time, but a big problem that I hear is people missing their family. So learn the internet. I mean, learn how to use Skype. It helps so much. I see this with relationships with grandchildren. Also, learning how to text, to communicate with the younger generation, that helps a lot, but being open to it. If you're recently retired and you're having a problem, consider speaking to someone about it. Sometimes it's helpful to speak to someone on the outside who doesn't have the judgment or the bias. Like I said before, it's so common in any transition to need help getting through it. Speak to someone. If you have any special circumstances, illness or disability or loss, consider going to a support group. It's very helpful, or going to one of the local agencies and finding out about the resources available. And I touched on this a little bit before, but if retirement for you includes moving, you may not want to do it then both. Well, a lot of you said you're already retired, but if a person retires and moves right away, sells their house, they could have two losses at once. And loss is not only losing people. Loss is also losing a home or losing an identity. So don't make any major changes without weighing the pros and cons. And try to make sure that if you do have to move when you retire, that you make sure that you have enough time to spend with the people important to you. Because I hear a lot from people that move here full-time, soon after being a snowbird, to simplify. But then they're so unhappy because they don't see their children enough. So that has to be weighed. And I find that especially in the summer, the activities in the retirement communities are greatly reduced and people are unhappy here. So if there's any way that you could have both, this is something that I don't think there's any answer to. When somebody wants to move down here full-time to make life easier because of the lifestyle here and they can't be with their family, I think it has to be talked about if there's any way to spend some time near the family somehow, if that's important to you. Okay, I just want to end with one quote from Dr. Stephen Burns. The only person that can make you happy is yourself. And what I want to suggest is that you take an inventory of what made you happy in the past, when you were working, before retirement, and find a framework to fulfill those needs in retirement. In my research, I came across a new definition of retirement that reflects our times. Retirement is changing gears, leaving one major set of activities and moving toward new paths and adventures. Stop and think about all the transitions you've navigated. Now think about the happiness those times could have brought you. Realize that there were hurts and heartaches along the way. Allow yourself time to adjust to this new life phase. And give it time. Any questions?
No, I'd like to know the name of the author who wrote the book. I show up, I listen.
I think I put it on, I have a sheet, but Quinlan, Anna Quinlan. I could write it down for you.
I think that, and I've experienced, that retirement is really freedom. Working is a form of slavery, if you will. You have to punch the clock, you have to satisfy the people you work with, the people you work for, and everybody else around you. You're servants. It is a servitude, and we have to do it, of course, because we have to make a living to support our families and ourselves. But when you're retired, what I've experienced is that this is freedom, because you don't have to report to anybody. You don't have to serve or satisfy, well, except the wives, really, anyone. So we have, I believe, something that we perhaps didn't have before, and that's freedom of choice. And that's not an easy thing to learn how to use either.
I kind of find the flip side, there is freedom, but it's also kind of intimidating because you suddenly don't have that built-in sense of structure, and also for me personally, the sense of productivity. I'm still working part-time, it's very hard for me to give that up because I feel like I'm vital and productive, and I have to work, I guess, at feeling that way in retirement as well.
Do you have to give it up?
No. I mean, my husband probably would, but no, I'm not trying to anytime soon.
I mean, I just see too often people giving it up and then regretting giving it up. I mean, and sometimes if you move, I mean, if you're open to finding something similar, volunteering or something else, you know, doing a different job, using your strengths. Any other questions or comments? Anyone want to share anything that's helped them that might be helpful to anyone here?
There's a problem in Florida with volunteering. Too many people are volunteering. You have to pay to volunteer.
It's also like in Israel, too. It's hard for people, they're waiting lists to volunteer.
Have you tried several places or you haven't been?
No, I'm not living here that long, okay. So I don't know, but I've been told that.
It's not easy to find the right fit and to find something, but it can be found.
Right.
I want to transition from retirement back
They
to
want somebody that can sponsor. They don't want somebody for 2 months.
any unemployment.
Transition is difficult for everybody.
Well, if you're here for the whole winter, I think it's easier. Right, if you're a snowflake, then you're really on vacation more, so it's not really the same unless you're retired at home. Right.
Oh, was that one?
Maybe it through the shul or through the
I think part of the issue is that the perceptions we have of retirement while we're working are very different from those that we face in reality. You go to work every day and oh boy, that day when I retire, everything's going to be heavenly. And yet we find that there are other challenges. And then you have a family life. You know, my wife and I, every 50 years, we never spend much time together. Get up in the morning, go to work, come back, and I get home 7 o'clock, and from 7 to 11, 4 hours during the time, you got to put the kids to bed, and you got to have homework. So how much time do you spend together? Oh, comes a weekend, you spend Shabbos and Shul. I mean, really, how much time? Oh,
retired, we're gonna have all that time to spend together. And then comes the reality of retirement. We're around the whole time, in space. And interestingly, at the time when you retire, in this case, when you relocate and you move, you're sudden, and you'd like to now, okay, let's start a new social life, and you get all these activities, you're confronted with floor-to-ceiling boxes. And you're talking about weeks and weeks of getting to know your wife again as the two of you unpack all these boxes. Should this go here, this go there, whatever it is. So all these challenges keep coming up. As time goes on, you sort of segue and gradually move into this environment, and I think you adapt to it, as long as you don't sit in front of the TV and become a couch potato or something. But my wife played, never in her life would she imagine playing mahjong. And yet she does. Oh, you find activities, and there's this thing called soul that somehow encompasses the rest of my life. But it's a process, and there's an actualization of what it really is, which is probably significantly in variance with the initial perceptions that you have.
But I mean, it reminds me of what you said about that it's not a TV show. You know, like,
yeah, right.
It's not like what society makes it sound like it will be. And also, when we're working, we look forward to the break of retirement.
You just want to get away from working.
Right.
Or, as I said to somebody, there's also the transition from retirement to part-time employment. If you reverse that process, whether it be volunteer or for compensation, and that's a lot different because retirement is always this panacea that you yearn for. Once you're there, you don't really yearn for some form of employment again, but sometimes it's necessary if you want to.
And sometimes I find that people were afraid to go back to, you know, I see people are afraid to go back, like there will be a new boss, or maybe if you were the boss before. But it's important to work through that fear, or else you could get stuck not doing what you need to do, something that will make you feel fulfilled. Like the example I think of when transitions are difficult is many of us can relate to the 2-year-old child who, when the new baby arrives, they regress, right? It's terrible, right? And they quickly, or not so quickly, learn to adapt with support and working through. I mean, it's a transition. So, and what I was thinking of when you were talking about that was that communication is very important, because and if you had difficulty communicating with your spouse before, it will be worse now, and it's very important to work through it together and talk about all these issues.
Yeah.